Alright, given each graph of f prime of x, state the intervals of increase and decrease for the function f of x. So we need to kind of note that an interval of increase, IOI, an interval of increase occurs when the slope is greater than 0. So that means that the first derivative function, f prime of x, should be greater than 0. Okay? And vice versa, interval of decrease will occur when the slope is less than 0 or that the first derivative function is less than 0. Okay? So having said that, if we look at question part A, right, we should see that there is an interval of increase within this domain. There's an interval of increase between 3 and 4 and 5, right? 3 and 5. Now there's no indication that this is going to be continuous, right? Because we don't have the arrows being shown. So I'm just going to restrict the domain 3 and 5. Now you can notice here that I'm using the round brackets, so that means that x is greater than 3, but it should be less than or equal to 5, because it should be positive. And the reason I'm not including 3, right, another way of saying this is x is greater than 3, less than or equal to 5. The reason I'm not including 3 is because at 3 we actually have a slope of 0, and we know that a slope of 0 when f prime of x is equal to 0, this indicates it's what we call a critical number or a critical point. Okay, so you can call it a critical number or critical point. And what a critical number or critical point is, it's basically it's when it indicates an extrema. So an extrema can be a local maximum, local minimum, or an absolute max, absolute minimum. It depends on the scenario, right? So it could be a maximum or minimum point. But remember, this is the derivative function. Now beyond that, if we take a look at interval of decrease, that's basically x belongs to, and you can see that it extends from here, this is -3, all the way to 3, so it extends, so x belongs to whoops, what happened there? From -3, I'm going to use the square bracket, -3 to +3 round bracket. So basically this means x is greater or equal to -3, but less than 3. That's basically what that would refer to, okay? So let's take a look at part B. So let's just kind of cycle through this a lot quicker, right? So wherever you see it above the x-axis, then you can kind of see that it's an interval of increase. Now in this case, we have the slope is positive, still an interval of increase, right? Even if the slope has a negative slope. Okay, so it's an interval of increase, so it's basically between -3. Okay, you want to say x belongs to -3 all the way to 5, and this is all inclusive, okay? For part C, you can see that there is we'll take the points that are zeros. Remember, this is the derivative function, right? We'll take the points that are zeros, and you can notice here that above the x-axis, you can see that this is between -3 and -2 and -1. So when x belongs, if we're looking at interval of increase, right? If you're looking at interval of increase, is between -2 and -1. Okay, sorry, we want to write x belongs to. So make sure you include that. So x belongs to -3 inclusive and -1. So what that's saying is x is greater or equal to -3 but less than -1. Okay, so that's the interval of increase. Then we have an interval of decrease basically between -1 and 2. Okay, so x belongs to -1 and 2. And then we have yet another interval of increase, so you can write union, right? So this is your interval of increase, but we can write union 2 onwards, right? So 2 and it looks like 3. Okay, so keep that in mind. Alright, so remember that there is no arrowhead, so this implies that the function isn't continuing onwards. Okay, so that was part C. And then for part D, you can see that there is a 0, so point of extrema, a -2 and +2. So we know that there is an interval of decrease between this point. Let's say this is like the 2.5 point. Okay, so this is a 2.5 point. So x belongs to, whoops, x belongs to -2.5 and 2. Union, another interval of decrease would be from 2 and +2.5, which is here. Okay, union 2 and 2.5. Okay, we want to switch the signs up. It should be greater than 2, less than or equal to 2.5. And an interval of increase will occur between -2 and +2, right? So x belongs to -2 and +2. Okay, so that's how we look at intervals of increase and decrease in the derivative function.